All right, guys, welcome to this section all about workflows, automation, and this is where the magic happens. I mean, if you really want to optimize your business, then you really want to start to learn all about workflows and automations because they truly are, they could potentially be replacing entire employees. Think of them as automated assistants and automated employees for your business. Things that would normally cost thousands of dollars to implement because you've got to pay someone to monitor it, send it, think about any possible action that you want to do with your business could potentially be replaced with automation. Now, they're not perfect and they're not easy, but they really can bring a tremendous amount of value for your business. And for those of you who have been through the onboarding process, if you haven't gone through it yet, please go through it because it's going to make a lot more sense. But I shared with you the automation that is preloaded into the coaching snapshot that you can load into your system. And a lot of the automation is done for you. And I want to encourage you to use this kind of mapping process. The software that I use for this is called Funnelytics, FUNNELYTICACS.io. You can set up a free account and you can use this for mapping. And I don't have their paid version. I don't need to pay for it. But there's other tools out there I'm sure you could use that do the same thing. I mean, theoretically, you could really just map this out like in Microsoft PowerPoint or Keynote or something like that. But I like these guys because they have some preset icons. And basically all I did is I built out, sort of the process, the flow of a traditional funnel. Opt-in page, hit a booking page, video on it. They can book a call. They get a booking confirmation page. There's a sales call. And if they purchase, right, they can do that. Now, all of these steps have automation that need to happen. Okay. And I'm showing this to you because I want you to understand that there is a lot that goes into it. But if you kind of just think about it in terms of like a normal flow, right? Like the normal process that a lead would have to go through in order to work with you, then creating these are actually really simple. And I'm going to show you some basic ones that you can work with or that you can create. Now you have all the ones that are preset in your system that you can work with. And they're all designed to be simple and where you only have to go in and just make some edits. And these are some basic ones that you have to work with. But I do want to recommend that you dive in and you learn a lot about these. Now, obviously, you can come up here into the support tab. You can type in workflows or just click on them. You can click on them here. And you can learn lots of little intricate details. But I want to show you just some basics of them so you can start to get to know what they look like. So let's say you're going to create a lead generation workflow. You've got a lead magnet that you've started and you want to drive people into it. Okay, there's one already in here, but let's create a new one. All right. So I click on create a workflow. I'm going to start from scratch so I can show you kind of the steps that go into this. First of all, I would have mapped it out. That's what I did when I created your workflows. I would name the workflow. Let's just say, let's call this one, I don't know. We'll call it new lead opt-in. Okay. I would name it like whatever your lead magnet is, right? So you can keep it straight. The settings I would adjust so they can get communication anytime. You can set the email to be from if you're the user and you're the only one, if you want to do the full, your user full name and the user email. So you could do that. Or you could just type it in, right? Or I could do, Ben Sturdivant, and I could do support at Elite360.io, right? I could just leave it at that. I would set the allow multiple, so it allows the person to enter this workflow more than once, just in case. You don't need to worry about stop on response. And then I would auto mark as read. And what that means is when they get sent an email, we're going to automatically mark that as read. And you can see right here, it says by default, automated messages don't mark conversations as read. So it says toggle this on if you want the conversations that this workflow will interact with to be marked as read. this is important because otherwise the automated emails that it kicks out are going to be marked as unread. They're going to be in your conversations tab. As soon as someone replies, that will be marked as unread and that will appear in your conversations tab. You don't need to worry about the start date. Okay. And then like always, hit save before you move on. Now, actions. So simple, right? We want to add a trigger. What's going to make this workflow start to happen? So the first thing obviously would be some sort of opt-in, right? So I would say, lead opt-in to, and then I would put your, lead magnet, whatever page they're opting into. It's a CRM. I will talk about in future trainings how to work with Facebook like lead forms, but this is just the CRM. And then there's the standard triggers, okay? And so you're looking for form submitted. There it is, form submitted. Now, what form? It doesn't know, right? So we need to add these filters to go farther down. So it basically takes what you put here and then it says, okay, what do you want to filter by in that form submitted? The form is, and then if you already have the form, obviously, you would select it. So if you have different forms for different lead magnets, that's okay. If you want to use the same one for every one, that's fine. But I would recommend creating different ones. And you can create, as many as you want. But I'm just going to use this because it's already there. Okay? And that's it. And I'm going to save the trigger. So now that means every time a lead opts in to this form, it's going to trigger this automation. Now, what do we want it to do first? Well, the first thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that they go into our pipeline, right? Into our opportunity. So I'll just type in op. I'm going to add update opportunity. And I like to name the action so I know exactly what I'm looking at. So added to opportunity. Okay. And then I'm going to select which pipeline. So they're going to be going in my main offer pipeline, which is fine, and which stage. And they're going to be new leads. Okay. I leave the opportunity name blank, but or you don't have to. If you want to, put their contact information in here, like contact first name, that's fine. Opportunity source. This really isn't needed unless you're doing some paid advertising. So that's when you could go down to attribution. It's a first touch, and this is where you can see if you're using UTMs or like the Facebook campaign ID, the Facebook click ID, all the UTM, the campaign name. This is where you could start adding all that stuff. So essentially, this would be included in the contact, basically when they appear in your pipeline that you can click on them. You don't need a lead value at this stage. And then in terms of status, I would just leave it how it is. I would allow the opportunity to move to any previous stage in the pipeline. I usually just check that. Okay. Add it to opportunity. If you want to have an internal notification sent, you could do that. So let's do notification and you send notification. And if you want them to, I would have it email you. And this is going to be, this is emailing you, not the contact. So it'd be the user, right? If you want, you can leave it blank if you want. In any email that you've already preset, because remember in the settings we have the from, you could just leave that blank. And then the user type, if you wanted to send to all users or assigned user. So if you have multiple people in your team, like let's say you have someone who just works on messaging, you could assign the user and assign the user to all the leads that are coming in or a particular user, and then you could select them there. But I'm the only one in here, so obviously there aren't any. So I would just say all users, and then subject, you could say new lead opt-in, right? Okay. And then here you could put some additional information like and then what you can include is the contact's information, first name, and I'm going to hit return, and now I can add the contact's last name. Not that this really matters because you're going to go into the system and communicate with them anyway. Contact's email and contact's phone. Let's just say that. Okay. Done. Cool. All right. Now, what else do we want to have happen? Well, we probably should add a lead tag. Okay. Because we want to tell the system that this is a lead. Tags, guys, are really important. In some of the pro tips that you get into, I'll be talking more about tags, but let's just say tag. I just typed in tag, add a contact tag, and then which one do I want to add? I would do lead. Now, if this is a completely separate a separate pipeline, let's say that you've created, and you want to do a challenge, right? That's completely separate from another lead magnet that you have, and you create a separate, challenge pipeline. You would want to create a tag that says challenge lead, and you would select that. The sort of the default lead tag that I created when I set this account up, when I set the snapshot up, is just lead. So that's what it's going to be tagged as, right? That's what I'm selecting. But if you had a specific opt-in, let's say it was opted into a challenge, you'd want to beforehand go ahead and create a challenge lead tag, and then you would select that. That stuff comes into play later on when you want to do like an email blast, or you want to create a smart list, for example, of just the people in your challenge. You could do it that way, right? And obviously, what you would be doing is creating a form that they opt in, right? Let me just save this action. But you would have like a challenge opt-in form, and you would add them to an opportunity. It wouldn't be your main offer pipeline. It would be your challenge pipeline that you would create. And there's trainings on how to create, your pipelines, opportunities, basically the flow of that funnel of what that would be, right? So you'd have an opt-in, and all the stuff that I showed you here. This basically is all these steps, right? Cancel call, no-show, purchase, client stage. This is the flow of your main offer funnel. So if you were to create a challenge funnel, you'd have an opt-in, you'd have, like a registration for the challenge, right? And you'd have various stages that you'd want them to go to after that. Maybe there is a book call, and maybe it's very similar. So it could be as simple as you just copying the main offer pipeline and naming it something different. But what I'm saying is all of this stuff is important. All the tagging is important. All the tags that we've pre-created for you are done for just the main offer pipeline. So any other pipelines that you make, you're going to want to create tags that apply just to those. Okay. Now, what do you think would be the logical next step? By the way, I'm going to just go ahead and hit save. I like to do it every once in a while, just to make sure. Okay. Let's say, okay, I want to send them a text. Okay. So I'm going to click on the next action. And, you could scroll through all of these. They're grouped external communications, stuff that you would do in the CRM, membership actions. There's some advanced conditions like if else and stuff, but obviously send SMS is right there. Okay. So I'm going to give the action a name. I'm going to send, lead magnet text. So like if it's the challenge, send challenge text, right? Send challenge welcome text. I like to be pretty specific on what it is. In your templates, you could have created a template that's already there if that's easy for you, or you can just, come in here, do the contact's first name, congrats, you're registered for the free challenge. Be sure to join the free group here, right? And then you pop the link to the group where the challenge is going to be. I'm just using this as an example. Let's say that the lead opts into your challenge, right? And they want to join that, okay? Now, some other things that you can do is test this, right? You could test it with pop in your phone number. It'll shoot the text there, and you're good to go, right? So I'm going to save that action. Obviously, we'd also want to send an email, right? So I'm going to do send lead magnet email or welcome email. Now I'm not going to go through, the whole thing here. but you could write some text. Well, let me show you, because this is pretty cool, right? This is all part of the workflows and stuff you can do. So custom values, I can send the contact's first name. I can, congrats, you're registered. And then you can fill in the content, the details about all of that stuff, right? And so you write a bunch of stuff about when it is and the time, and they can join the group, blah, blah, blah. And then you want to sign off, right? You could come in here, custom values user, which is you or who, the owner of the account. You could do your full name. It'll automatically update it to every email, okay? Or, to that email that's being sent. You could test it, pop your email in there. You could include an attachment if you wanted to. Save the action. So now the email's sent. So this is a very basic workflow that we've set up, right? Lead ops into your, let's say, your challenge, and we added them to, let's say, a challenge pipeline. Let's pretend that says, challenge pipeline. Let's say, you have the same flow, let's say, for the challenge, and you labeled it as a challenge lead, and the opportunity name that's going to appear on that is going to be their first name. Boom. Now they're added. You're going to get an internal notification. You're going to get an email that says you got a new channel opt-in or challenge opt-in. You're going to add the lead tag. I would call it like a challenge lead tag if that's the pipeline or the lead magnet that you've created that's separate from your core lead magnet. Or if you just want to make the default system that we have in here, whatever, I'm just showing you an example of what you can do here. You can send a text, send a welcome email. Now, it doesn't make sense to just send a bunch of emails. We'd want to wait a period of time, right? So let's wait. So I'm going to go down and I'm going to look for conditions all the way down the bottom, or I could have just typed in wait. That's typically what I do. Wait. And I want to say, I always name the action, wait for how long? Wait for, let's say, 1 day, right? And there's a couple of different delays that I can do. I can do, a time delay, or I can do a condition delay. I'm going to just do a time delay. We'll talk about conditions here in a second. But let's say I want to wait for 24 hours. Okay. Well, that's going to send it 24 hours later. Now there's an advanced window I can choose here. The system is defaulted to Monday through Friday emails only, but I'm going to select Saturday, Sunday, and I'm going to have it in that window, right? Because that's 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. It just looks like it's sent from a more professional, any email that arrives at like 1 a.m. is obviously, or 2 a.m. is a bot, right? You don't need to worry about any additional filters or anything like that, but now it's going to wait for a day. And now what you can do is we could send another email. I wouldn't send more than one text. You'll see in the call booking reminder, we do have when someone books a call, we send a confirmation text. They get a text 24 hours before and then 1 hour before. In that situation, it's fine. So maybe in the challenge, you could do something like in a challenge type thing where it's going to be live, you could do something like that. But if it's like you're given a PDF and a series of emails to kind of follow up with people, I wouldn't abuse text, right? Obviously, it can be expensive if you're sending thousands and thousands of them a month, but I wouldn't abuse it because it's personal, and 100% of the people will open it. I guarantee it. Or at least like 99%. I've not seen any less than that. But let's send another email. I'm just going to say test. I always label the same thing. I would continue and lead magnet email number 2. I keep the naming strategy the same. I'm just going to write in some placeholder text right now, just so you can see the flow. And then maybe what I would do is I would wait a couple of days. And so I'm going to say wait for 2 days because we don't want to abuse, so this will be 48 hours. Unfortunately, they don't have a days. I'm sorry. They do. I'm going to change that again. Save action. Let me save this. I believe in the settings, I can restrict. I can. So I can go back and just change that. That way I don't have to worry about ever doing that again. So that's just a little bit of a tip. you can go into the settings and you could set it, where you don't have to change it every time. So what I would do is I would continue this process. So this is a very simple, workflow. You can do lots of different things in these. I mean, you could drop a voicemail to them. We showed you that in the getting started section. You could trigger a call. I wouldn't mess around with that. If you wanted to send them an Instagram DM, you could, but you don't know if they've come in through Instagram DM. In a future training, you'll learn how to set up some automated replies. If you ever do like a two-step or something with Facebook messaging or with, Instagram messaging, you could have the system set it up so you trigger a response automatically based on a keyword that they put in, which is pretty cool. I mean, we're getting advanced here, but which is pretty neat. Okay. And there's a lot of stuff that you can do inside the system, right? There's also conditions that you can check on, if you wanted to do like an if-else system. All right, let's do that. I'll show you, it's a little bit advanced, but it's important for you to understand the thought process that goes into creating these. So let's say they sent email number 2 and it was a really important email. Like it made no sense for them to continue on if they didn't, open that. So I'm going to add another wait. So after 2 days, the system's going to look in there and it's going to wait, and I'm going to have it wait for open. Okay. Or email open, whatever you want to call it. And now I'm going to go down to condition, wait for a particular condition to get satisfied, or I think it's wait for email events. Yeah. Pick a step. Email number 2. Right? What's the email? I want it to be opened, right? And save action. It's going to automatically create the opportunity for if else. Watch this. When I go if else, right? If email is opened, let's do workflow trigger. Events, email event is opened, save action. Now we've got the logic. Okay, so here's what happened. The second email was sent. It's going to wait for 2 days. We're going to wait for it to be opened. And if the email is opened, maybe what we do is we go ahead and send another email, right? We continue on with our flow, but we don't want to send people a bunch of emails. So maybe what we do now, we check on it. We say, hey, let's send them an SMS. Let's send them do you want to hear from me? SMS, right? And now you could send a text that says, I noticed you haven't. So maybe I say something like this. I noticed you didn't open my last email. I don't want to bug you. Are you sure you want to hear from me? If so, just reply with yes. If you don't, if you'd rather not, if you do, or no, if you'd rather not. So I'm going to throw that in there. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for reply. And I can do contact reply. Oh, it's right there. Sorry. Do you want to hear from me? SMS. That's what they're replying to, right? Save action. And then I'm going to say if else. If they reply. And let's do contact reply. Contact replied. Yes. Yes. If they replied, yes, right? And then now I can take them on a different sequence, right? I'm not even going to get into that. I think I'm just going to confuse the heck out of you. But hopefully what you've noticed here is I can continue on and really continue taking people down a discovery process that I control, that automates everything. So instead of people having to manually do all this stuff or worse, not doing anything, all of these workflows can automate this whole process. So I know I went into a little bit too much detail, but look for some future trainings. Guys, go through some of the stuff back here that I was telling you about. Go through, click on the support, go to workflows, spend some time, learning these things and how to duplicate them and some of the advanced stuff. It's pretty cool what you can do with workflows. Anyway, thanks guys. We'll see you in the next training.